The No Kings protest had millions of people and accomplished nothing. Education teaches people that peaceful protest is the correct way to make change. Because peaceful protests don't achieve much. Historically, change always comes from rebellion, when power actually feels threatened. That's why the US teaches the civil rights movement through speeches and marches. And MLK the peaceful hero and the Boston Tea Party. And we're told over and over again that people have the right to protest peacefully, to keep the system intact.
White people are never going to be able to overcome the powers that be in the current political climate because they are still viewing how you respond to disrespect and cruelty of your people through a racial lens. A large reason why white people refuse to get aggressive, how they would deem black people to get aggressive, how we did with George Floyd, is because anything radical they associate to blackness. Peaceful protest, in my opinion, it's racist. In my opinion, it's your peace is superior to having an all-out brawl or looting or setting fires, etc., etc. But anyone that has studied history understands that the only way that people respond to anything that happens is through violence, is through fucking shit up. But they've given black people I guess, us being the poster children of that. And so because of that, white people want to distance themselves as far as possible. And they used white people that tried to do that as an example with the January 6th insurrection. Because that shit was some wild banshee shit that they did. It was some wild banshee shit that they did. And so they had to point the finger and say, white people, we're getting your asses in order. That's what black people do. Black people are the type that is going to storm the White House and loot and shoot up the places and, throw Molotov cocktails inside of places. That's a black people thing. You as a white person, no, you're going to be peaceful. You're going to be sweet. You're going to be kind. You're going to be empathetic. You're going to be docile. You're going to be submissive. You don't want to be like those black people that are belligerent and angry and irate and don't have any class and don't have any couth about them. So this is the reason why no progress is going to be made. Zero progress is going to be made because every single thing comes down to race. I don't give a fuck what you name. Every single thing comes down to race. So a lot of this nice, kind response into what is happening is because they do not want their reaction to get them closer to blackness. They want to be seen as white and pure and peaceful. And this is what the people in power are banking on. They're banking on white people holding their supremacy in regards to how they respond to two of their own being killed for no reason in cold blood. That's what they're banking on. Be the bigger person. Have empathy. Be peaceful. We can make change and we can create change without harming one another, without hurting one another. That's never happened in history. People had to fuck shit up in order to be taken seriously. It's still upholding white supremacy when you are looking at things from a peaceful lens because you feel as though something can be accomplished that way.
White people are terrified of defying authority and breaking the rules. I used to think that white people just were super racist and they hated black people, and that's why anytime something happened to black people involving the police brutality or something, that it was because of that, right? When the reality is actually much deeper than that. And I always think back to Martin Luther King's letters from Birmingham jail when he asked about the white moderate, and essentially he's inquiring about why they won't get active in his quest for change, right? Because these weren't racist white people. These weren't the hateful white people. These were the white people who agreed with him, but who were just reluctant to act. So then I began to think about the history of white people how they became white and why they came to America in the first place, and all of a sudden it made a lot more sense. Europeans came to America to escape prosecution and persecution in their own lands. They did not have the strength or courage to fight and fend for their own lands. So they packed up their entire families and came to America for a fresh start. The Europeans that came to America are not the Europeans that were fighting French revolutions and putting the elites' heads on a stick. This is not the same group. Europeans that came to America were the most impoverished.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you are doing great from wherever you're watching this video from. And as you know, I'm your host and presenter Epigenetics Stories. Let's have a chat about something. For the longest time, we have been seeing white people going out on the streets for No King's Day. And it does make sense because black people say that we are not part of this. We're not getting part of this. We're not getting on the way of part of this. But there are problems with white protests. There are problems with white protests that they are so much observational. Some of these protests are performative. Why am I saying so? Because they're making it like it looks like it's just business as usual. Come out in numbers, march on the street, no agenda, no nothing. Everyone is protesting against Donald Trump. Of course, Donald Trump is the problem. But some of these problems were there even before Donald Trump was. And these type of protests, you are being even given the police is escorting you, you guys are having the police marching alongside you, walking smoothly, slowly. That doesn't help. You are just soothing the problem because it means that the government is giving you opportunity to soothe them because that's what you do. This is why it's different with black protests. Black people would have called things out. Black people would have told the truth on their faces. And that's why you ask yourself, why is it that black people remain target when they go to these protests? They remain target because black people don't beat around the bush. Black people don't be performative with their protests, as we are seeing what is happening right now. The No Kings protests have been going on for a while now, but we are not seeing any change. It is not bringing any impact. And majority of all these white people that are protesting, they are protesting to a fire that has already burned the house. Black people protested because they saw the smoke before it burned the entire thing. And they gave you the smoke signal. They warned you, but you didn't listen. You guys are now protesting for a house that has already been burned. And now you cannot recover everything. You cannot recover everything. But you see, with smoke, you are able to get out. You are able to salvage important things. Right? And so, brothers and sisters, this remains the reason as to why white people desperately needs black Americans on the street. Maybe they need black people to teach them how to protest. I don't know. Because what we are right now seeing is very, very observational. And we are seeing the protests that they are doing is not even helping them. Brothers and sisters, I want us to watch this video. And then I'll be back. I'll be giving my thoughts in regards to this. And as you know, I'm your host and presenter Epigenetics Stories. But until then, let's watch the video. I'll be back with my thoughts and commentaries in regards to this. So stay tuned. I'll be back.
The most vulnerable, the most afraid. These are the people who risked their lives to be here because they had nothing else to lose in Europe. And the only reason that they survived here is because they kept their heads down. I think a lot of people forget that before it was America that was tormenting the entire world, it was Britain. I want y'all to think about all of the countries that now belong to the United Kingdoms. Those were all once independent European groups who spoke vastly different languages and had vastly different cultures and now have been amalgamated into one cultural group. When these people came to America, they were terrified and frightened and just wanted a fresh start. And so when the elites and the colonial bourgeois offered them conditional privileges and the safety net of whiteness to ignore the brutality against Black and indigenous people, they accepted it. They eliminated their heritage, their cultural practices. Some of them changed their names, stopped eating certain foods. They assimilated as much as they could, emulated the cultural elites, as in the bourgeois, white people or whatever, and they never looked back. The Europeans were terrified of standing out. And that terror of being singled out, of being persecuted, still persists today. And this is why whiteness is so extremely rigid and sterile. Because this is a group of people who were terrorized for over a millennia by the rich, by the elite, by the feudal lords. And even though America was hell for Black and indigenous people, it was a breath of fucking fresh air for the Europeans. The core ideology of whiteness is following the rules and obeying authority. Because that is how white privilege came to be. Follow the rules, you stay in line, you ignore the atrocities of Black and indigenous people, and you will be just fine. And that is why none of these white people ever want to do anything about anything. They are terrified. They come from weak, fragile bloodlines. It has been passed down not only through social teachings, but epigenetics. These people were helpless then in their homelands in Europe, and they're helpless now in America. And this is really why people tend to pathologize the Black American experience of fighting against injustice, because their survival depended on doing the exact opposite. They see our fight as going against the grain, and as long as they stay away from us, stay away from our movements, they can remain safe and privileged. Now, when it comes to ICE and Latin American immigrants, that is something that they can relate to because it's their story. They see themselves in the Latin American fight, just people who were facing economic disparity or state-sanctioned violence, escaping their reality and here to start a new life. That is what every white immigrant family did. So that is a type of fight that they can align themselves with. I just want to start a new life. They can see themselves aligning for the fight to come here and assimilate and follow the rules. Not fighting to change the system. That goes against the core principle of whiteness. And so if you're wondering why white people aren't outraged or out in the streets causing chaos because of the Epstein files, it is because they are deeply, pathologically afraid.
The word protest has a different meaning for white people than it does for Black people. Let me put it this way. Black protest is a scream from the fire, and white protest is a complaint about the smoke.
This is what I mean when I say that white people don't know how to protest, because you guys have never actually had to fight for anything if it included another group. Because why I don't understand. Since when did it become the standard? Since when did Zephyr shut the fuck? Since when did it become the standard that how successful a protest is determined by how many people show up? If 100,000 people show up but y'all don't do shit, you didn't fucking do anything. If 1,000 people show up and you just walk up a street and walk back, you didn't fucking do anything. If you're in a protest that is collaborating with the police department on a Saturday so no one has to miss work or no one has to block traffic, then that's not a fucking protest. That's a goddamn parade. Any peaceful protest that occurs, at the very very least, there must be a level of networking between the people who attend. But I know y'all aren't talking to each other. The last 2 times I went to these protests, everyone was in their own groups. Y'all weren't even loud for real. Look at all these videos. People aren't even yelling. They aren't really saying anything. They're just walking with a fucking poster board that they took 20 minutes to make at home from the fucking dollar store. What is going on? You guys aren't fellowshipping. You guys aren't building coalition. You guys aren't doing anything. You're just walking up a street and walking back just to say that you were there. And then on top of that, if you look at their website of demands, all of it is centered around Donald Trump. Why is Donald Trump at the center of oppression? These things have existed. These systems have existed long before then. And that's why all of these protests are just a sea of white faces, because it's full of people who have never listened to minorities a day in their life other than to boost their own fucking ego and social credit. Full of people who only don't like Trump because he's overtly mean. That's why. They don't like his optics. That's it. If he was a lot more sly in his racism, sexism, and homophobia, they would have nothing to fucking say. But they do this to stand on a goddamn high horse, but they're still fundamentally useless. I'm saying this because the first 2 protests I attended, I was absolutely disgusted with the behavior of people, specifically in Philadelphia, which is one of the biggest places for protests to happen. There were people at this No Kings protest talking about how racist and classist and disgusting Donald Trump was. Thousands of people all saying the same thing, and I watched every single one of them walk past the entire block of homeless people. I actually saw someone in a fucking frog costume, and there was a homeless man sitting next to them, and I witnessed people take the pictures at an angle just so they wouldn't catch the guy in the photo. Just after the second protest, on the strip in Philadelphia, the city hall, that whole strip, I was like cataloging like how many people were there, and I bought as much food as possible. I bought hundreds of dollars worth of food. Let me tell you something. I ran out of food. There were children in the crowd of people who were looking for food. Like a literal fucking 4-year-old. And y'all walk past. You're crazy. Is that not just evil? Is that not just disgusting? The cognitive dissonance is so crazy to me. This whole better than nothing mentality is so infantile, because I know people are going to show up in my comments being like, well, what are you doing? Not being fucking useless and performative, that's for sure.
Sorry, but I don't think these No Kings protests are doing much of anything. Because it will literally be a protest that is happening over the weekend, and a bunch of people will show up for these No Kings protests, and they'll say there were record-breaking numbers of people that showed up in order to protest against the current system that we have running. But then, once the weekend is over, everyone will just go back to work and just go back to participating in this capitalistic system, and then commenting things like, but I still have to pay the bills, or do I still have to go to work? It's like, the thing is, that power is actually within the people. The people get to decide if we keep participating in this capitalistic system. And that actually is the issue. And I understand that there is, good intent behind the No Kings protest, but I just genuinely don't believe it's like making as big of a shift as people think it would make. And they keep happening, but again, it's happening on the weekends, which is already feeling like it's participation with the system, because it's like, that's when people are off of work. That's when people have the time to go ahead and do that. And then people having to get permits in order to protest. Like, it's all feeling like just more participation within the system. And like, the thing is, all of these people will go protest at the No King's Day protest, but then go back to work. And then say the same things about, why do we have to keep participating in this capitalistic system? When it's like, that's actually our power. Our power is the fact that we can stop participating in this capitalistic system and make a change very quickly. And I understand that people have all these different ideas about, people just quitting their jobs en masse, and like, we don't have unity in this country, whatever the case may be. Even if people are waiting for other people to start doing it, it's just like, that is the issue. That is the core issue. So I don't really know if these No King's Day protests are doing much of anything at all. I'm just being honest.
Because if you're not providing or replacing what the government is taking away, then you're not protesting, you're performing. A protest without demands is not a protest. It's a Saturday activity. It's a Saturday event. Those marches y'all see in y'all's history books of MLK marching, Coretta Scott King marching, those were directly tied to boycotts. It was 381 days of Black Americans destroying the bus system's revenue by walking miles to work every day. That's why it's called the Montgomery bus boycott. That's why they were marching. And the March on Washington wasn't just vibes and cute, clever signs. They had 10 specific demands that they submitted to Congress. Every march had a mechanism. It had a pressure point, an economic consequence, or a legislative demand attached to it. And as much as y'all don't like it, Black people in America have every right to be suspicious of camera-ready leadership. Because from a lot of our perspectives, it substitutes power building with performance. The real work is not glamorous, it's not showy, it's slow, but it's structural work. Are y'all out there connecting people to medical assistance, to food aid assistance, to rent help assistance? Mutual aid is the protest. Are you providing what the government is currently taking away from people? That is the protest. That's what the Black Panther Party did. They provided free breakfast, free clinics, sickle cell testing, while they were actively naming the systems that were causing the need for these things. A protest without follow-through infrastructure is a photo op in civic costume, and a protest without demands is a parade. What does a protest look like when it actually serves the people? For these No King marches, yes, the aesthetics are there. The optics look good on camera. We're seeing the numbers, and it's making people feel like you're not alone in this feeling. There's more of us than there are of them. I understand that part. But what happens on Monday morning when somebody's SNAP food benefits get cut? What happens when they lose their Medicare? Who's handing these people numbers to where they can get food assistance, rental assistance, medical care, dental care, connecting them to lawyers even? For a lot of Black Americans, we are worried that these No King protests, while they look good for the cameras and for the news reports and all of that, and for morale, what we are concerned with is that this is simply just scratching the itch of the white savior complex that a lot of white liberals seem to have. It's allowing y'all to show up on your day off to scratch your moral itch just enough that you feel absolved. And then going and voting for the same centrist policies that gut the very programs people are losing. Who is taking the demands and meeting with the president, the vice president, Congress? Who is going and taking the list of well-written out legislative changes that need to be addressed that are causing people to want to go out in the streets? Martin Luther King Jr. did not march for the cameras. He marched with a list that he took straight to the motherfucking president. The Black Panther Party didn't march around the streets with signs. They provided the services that the government was stripping from the people while calling it out and naming it exactly what it was that was causing people to need these services provided for free. I'm not saying don't march. I'm not saying don't show up and show the numbers and build community. Yes, do that. But numbers without demands is just a crowd. Are you disrupting the system's revenue? Are you hurting the government where it hurts, their wallets? Or are you simply parading around with a clever slogan on your sign so you can post a photo on Instagram, Threads, X, or TikTok so that you can feel morally superior because you feel like you showed up and did something? What is the outcome? The work does not end when the march does. And if there is no boycott, if there's no sustainability as to disrupting the systems and its revenue, then baby, this is just a Saturday event. This is just a parade. This is just an activity, something for y'all to do to make you feel morally superior and better about yourselves. It's scratching the itch of the white superiority complex that so many white liberals have without actually addressing and bringing solutions to what people are protesting about. The aesthetics are good, but is it sustainable? Is it disrupting the system? Is it hitting them where it hurts?
Don't waste your time with these No Kings protests. If your plan is to go out on Saturday and wave signs, march in a giant crowd, and just show how angry you are, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your energy. How many have we seen, like 3 or 4 of these things, and what's come of it? Let's be honest, not much. And there's one reason for that. And that's because a lot of people, the vast majority of people who are engaging in these protests, while well-meaning, they're doing it as if that is the goal, to show that you're all upset. And now what I've heard a lot of people argue is, oh, well, this giant show of solidarity instills hope in the people. And through hope, we can resist and we'll vote in November and everything will be okay. But resistance is not a thing that you do once on Saturday every few months. And resistance is not something that you do alone. These crowds, these protests are actually fantastic opportunities. And there are a lot of people. I mean, it's a big country. There are a lot of people who are making the most of them. The organizers, they are making the most of them, right? But whether it's indivisible or no kings or whatever, no one has succeeded in getting everybody's attention and getting to activate everybody every time that we need them. Because that's an impossible task. So we need to manage our expectations and we need to be strategic about how we use these protests, because the protest is not the goal. The protest itself, the press that it generates, the hope that it instills in other resistors, that is not the goal. When you go to a No Kings protest, you need to go there with a plan. The most powerful tool against fascism is community. It's organic community. And no one movement is a giant community. Community is local. Community is accessible. Community is and has to be your neighbors. Because fascism doesn't just come from the White House or the halls of Congress. It grows in your backyard. And that is where you can fight it most effectively. So if you're going out to the No Kings protests, go with a plan, be strategic. Your one goal needs to be to connect with 3 people. 3 people that you either don't know or you're not already friends with, you don't have a connection with. Build a connection. And I have built a tool that you can use for free. Just Google Veterans Fighting Fascism, and you'll find a website that is dedicated to the concept of the Anti-Fascist Book Club. I have written manuals, it's a book list, there are leader guides, everything that the average American needs.
Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the channel. Sorry about that. Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you are doing great from wherever you're watching this video from. And as you know, I'm your host and presenter Epigenetics Stories. You are already saying that there is a wave, and white people are getting to understand these are things that they could have easily solved by getting the warnings of black people. But they decided not to. They decided not to join the protests. They decided not to help black people. They decided not to listen to black people. Because they are protesting about Mr. Donald Trump. They are protesting about the wrong thing. That's something that they could have easily corrected in the ballot box. But I guess they didn't. So somebody is going on a protest because his farm is not doing well. But you understand that we have people that have genuinely been disadvantaged by the system for the longest time. Donald Trump is just part of the system. He's just a person that has catalyzed the fall of the United States. These problems have been existing. These problems have been there for the longest time. It is not like it is Donald Trump that has entirely brought them, but he has made it easy for the collapse of the United States. So for me, honestly, I think white people are protesting for their own cause. They should protest for the system. They should protest amongst the things that are important, of course, Donald Trump included. But it should not be entirely Mr. Donald Trump. Why? Because you people are protesting a result. You are not trying to avoid anything. There's this woman, I think you've listened to her. She said that the difference between white protest and black protest is that white protest is a protest for the result. They're protesting because something has happened that they don't want. But black protest is a protest to prevent any looming effect that might happen. And black protest is like a warning to those people who are planning to do anything bad to a group of people. But white people wait until things has gotten out of hands. That's when now they show up. That's when now they start telling, they start protesting, they start going out ranting against everything that is working against them. Well, right now we are seeing the differences. We are getting to see all the differences. Somebody is saying that I'm not seeing a protest. I'm seeing a performance. If this was really about change, the signs would be about real struggles, voting rights, discrimination, erased black history, deportations, rising costs, and people losing their livelihoods. It will be about protecting democracy for everyone, not just making a statement for the moment, but instead, its costumes and slogans will already understand. America doesn't have a king. We know that. That's not our stake. What's stake is people's life. The No Kings protest doesn't make a damn sense. Protest is supposed to push change, not just create noise. If we are serious about democracy, we need to be serious about fighting for all people. Back in the day, protests weren't a performance. They were a fight for survival. Our ancestors weren't out there for pictures or costumes. They were getting beaten. They were getting jailed, attacked by dogs, sprayed with fire hoses, and even killed just for demanding basic human rights. People like Martin Luther King Jr. didn't march for attention. They marched knowing they might not make it home. Those movements had real purpose: voting rights, equality under the law, and freedom from discrimination, which led to laws like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Acts of 1965. That was the real protest, and that's how the real protest looks like. Sacrifice, unity, and real change for all people. It's not about costumes, not empty slogans, not marching just to say unity and real change for all people, not costumes, not empty slogans. People's lives are always on the line, and this is not entertainment. Be serious about democracy, at least for once, and understand that the problem is injustice, and some of you all will rather play dress up and then confront it. This isn't activism. What white people are doing, this is what we call a performance. Democracy isn't a theme, and people's lives aren't props. This is not a protest. It is just a parade of people playing activists for the day, to be honest. Because if you're not being chased by police, if the police is escorting you doing what you're doing, then definitely you are doing the wrong thing. What you're doing is not for the right cause. What you're doing ain't gonna bring any change. What you're doing is not gonna help. And I think we can allude to what Black Americans have been protesting. See, for them to get the civil rights movement, for them to get everything that we are seeing right now, some of them protested not knowing that they'll go back home. So it all makes sense when we say that this is a performance. This is not a protest. And until this dawns to you, you get to understand that this is not a protest. And so, brothers and sisters, please let me know what you think and feel about this. And as you know, I'm your host and priest and Epigenetics Stories. But until then, let me see you in my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salam.